From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrus with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, February 5th. And if you did see our long range that we outlooked on Friday that we released, we actually put a mea culpa on there, and that was a kind of an omission of a fail of the winter outlook, just because we've gotten now about two-thirds of the way through meteorological winter, and we haven't seen anything in resemblance of what we expected, and it was in a large part to the quasi-biennial oscillation, which are your zonal winds at the stratosphere, at the equatorial regions, and they were just a little bit too strong, and that really has a lot more of an effect than most people realize. It actually keeps the polar vortex strong and intact over the polar regions, so you can't get that cold coming down into the United States that you would need in order for those analogs that we had to work out. Had it not done so, had the polar vortex been able to escape the Arctic regions and not been as strong, we would have had a much different story this year. Because we definitely had the precipitation. If you look at January precipitation actually finished above normal. We think February will as well. But so we're getting the precipitation events. It's just a matter of not having the cold available, and that's because the polar vortex is stuck over the Arctic regions. And except for a few transient cold shots, which means they're going to be short-lived shots of cold, couple days here and there, and then it goes back to warm. If you're going to have that when the polar vortex is not farther south and displaced like you would need it to be, and that was in large part due to that quasi-biennial oscillation. That's not something you can necessarily predict ahead of time. We can guess, just based on past analogs, what that might do or what it might be, but it just didn't work out that way. So it happens, and as a result, we're abandoning the seasonal outlooks. We're just going to keep doing the long-range 2 to 3 week leads every Friday, just looking 2 to 3 weeks into the future. And this is what we did starting on the 1 to 5 day temperature outlook. This is starting February 4th. There's actually backtracking a day. So the period between the 4th and the 8th we expect to be above normal, and the reason is largely because of the storm that's going to be coming in Tuesday into Wednesday. We're going to have temperatures that are going to get up in the 40s and 50s. So obviously, even for this time of year, that is above normal. Not crazy above normal, though, so we're going to have just slightly above normal temperatures for that average period. When we do these 5 day intervals, it's averaging all 5 days together. There might be days in here that are cooler. In fact, there will be. There's going to be some that are going to be a little warmer, too, but at the end of the day, if you average all 5 together, this is what you get. So that's what these temperature graphs indicate here. If we go to the next period, you're actually slightly below normal for that period from the 9th to the 13th, but I do think the 12th, 13th time frame will actually be above normal. So again, 9th, 10th, 11th are far enough below normal that it makes up for what you're above normal, the 12th and the 13th. So that's how that works, okay? And then we get into the latter period here. We actually have, in this period, we have retreating cold air out of the northeastern United States, still stuck here, 14th, 18th, but it's going to be sealed. There's warmth throughout here. This is all going to be moving eastward, we think, and by the time you get to the end of the period, which is day 16 to 20, this is the 19th to 23rd, that is all moved eastward, and you see much of the country is now above normal. So we do expect this to continue, and we have some ensemble guidance to back that up. Some were speculating, though, we'd have some tropical forcing help. We actually alluded to this on Twitter, too, and actually on our Facebook page a little bit. We put this in comments. Typically, when you have the Madden-Julian oscillation, which you measure your convection along the date line in the equatorial eastern Pacific, the part we're concerned about is the equatorial eastern Pacific. When you have the convection heading toward the international date line here and heading to phase 8, you can see that unanimously on the GEFS, which are the GFS ensembles, and the European ensembles, unanimously project that from the 12th to about the 18th here, you're seeing a phase 8 signal. Actually, the European model is a little more aggressive, taking this into phase 1 eventually, which is also a good signal. So if you're going to outline what the good signals are this time of year, this is a good signal, this is a good signal, this is a good signal, this is okay, this is bad, this is bad, this is very bad. And I'm talking about, when I say bad, I'm talking about warm, very warm, and this is warm, okay? So the whole idea here is we're right here right now. We're in this bad phase. heading into a very bad phase. And then once these are all these dots represent different days. So this starts February 4th. That's where we are, and it just goes all the way to the 18th. The last dot is February 18th here. Same thing here on this chart here. So when you start getting the convection propagating eastward along the date line, and you get to the international or along the equator, heading toward the international date line, that's what this phase is here. So typically, a phase 8 signal, what does that do? Typically promotes blocking and a cold, a trough in the eastern United States, a ridge out west. Okay. So you have this, so that's typically what this does. It doesn't always work that way. And the reason it's not, and I'll show you this, we're going out to the 12th. This is the first day. Actually, if you go back to this real quick, the first day these dots here is the 12th. This is the 12th, this is the 12th. So it's saying the 12th should be a phase 8 signal. This is not a phase 8 signal, though, on the ensembles. We have a Gulf of Alaska low here. You have a ridge out here in the western United States and a trough starting in the east here. But see, it doesn't quite get down to our area here, and that's because you have no blocking over Greenland. The reason you don't have blocking over Greenland is the polar vortex is sitting right here, so it prevents any blocking. You see the blocking is up here. It needs to be down here over Greenland in order to get this to dive deep down in the eastern United States, and that's not happening. Okay, so that's why we don't think you're going to have an overwhelming pattern of cold like a phase 8 signal would show. Now, that will show at times. There's a possibility for that. It'll take a little bit further in time, get toward the middle of the month. This is a phase 8 signal also, but you see, now the best block is still further north, but you got at least a slight hint of some blood. PV moved a little bit south. You need this to move further south. A little bit more blocking over Greenland. Look what happens. Still get the Gulf of Alaska low, still get the ridge out west, and you got a trough that's digging to about our area. All right, it won't help the southeastern United States like a true phase 8 would if the PV wasn't too strong and in the wrong position. But you're getting enough blocking where you get some of this cold coming down here into our area. So you have some transient shots of cold. This is not going to be permanent because once you get past this point, I think you start to warm up again. All right, we have troughing out west here a little bit, and then you have a ridge out here in the east, and this means warm is going to come back here for probably the last 10 days or so of February. So it looks like it's going to be, so the only thing you're going to be able to get at this point if you want cold and snow is going to be some perfectly timed systems. There was some things that are showing, like the 6C GFS this morning showed one of these perfectly timed systems coming in behind our rain system on Tuesday. Now, this is not a lock yet. This is just something that was shown in the 6C GFS. To some extent, the European model last night. And we don't have the updated information yet. This was done before 12Z ran today. But you basically have a weak shortwave that's trailing that comes out this way and then kind of hits out here and intensifies, and you get some snow on the back side of this. The European had it, but not quite as far to the northwest as the GFS shows here. Okay, so this is something we got to keep an eye on. This is something just kind of popped up here, and you'll have this in the next couple weeks. You might have something that's perfectly timed with the cold shots. You're still going to get the cold shots. You're going to get warm and then cold, warm then cold until we get to about the 18th, 19th or thereabout. Then it stays warm. But up until that point, you have some up and downs here. Now, the Tuesday system, the ones that's coming in Monday night into Tuesday, and into Tuesday night and early Wednesday will all be rain. That's going to be a warm system. But then the cold front drag through for that system will keep it colder. So when this one arrives, potentially, that's the key word there, potential. You could have another weak system coming here that kind of hits the shoreline and blows up a little bit, and you get some snow on the back end here. Is that possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. Just needs to be perfectly timed, though. So we're not, although we gave our mea culpa on winter, and that's exactly on the pattern we expected, it didn't come out. It didn't work out. Doesn't mean you can't get snow the rest of the year. It's still possible. You just need something perfectly timed. Another system around the middle of the month. Not shown to be a big thing right now. This just shows like a clipper on steroids type thing around the middle of the month here. The reason I'm interested about this one is if you go back to the image I showed you, the GFS ensembles for the middle of the month, you have that have a better setup here. Remember, we were just talking about this big ridge out west, trough coming down to the eastern United States. If this setup is here like this, you have the opportunity for one of these systems to come around the bend here and be a little bit stronger than indicated right now. So that's an area of interest we're going to watch too, because you have enough blocking here, not a lot, but enough that you can get at least enough cold air into our region to support at least a transient shot of cold. And if there's any kind of storm in this time frame, it's likely to be snow versus or frozen versus having rain. So in between, you have the rain when it warms up, and then when you have these cold shots. If you have something perfectly timed that can come in here, you can get some snow out of it. So this one here, don't take this verbatim right now. You're going out 240 hours in the future here. European has this as well, but if this comes any further south and digs a little bit like this, and then you can get a bigger snow event out of it. So there's still a possibility for some snow systems. The first one we're going to keep an eye on is this one. We don't know if this is just a smoke screen, because this just kind of showed up here on the 6C GFS. And European model, by the way, has it too. It's a little bit further south, though, so it just gets the areas kind of like right here in these areas here. It gets into some accumulating snow. So either way, we'll have to watch it. Not a big deal just yet. Don't worry about it just yet. But the whole theme here is that this phase 8 signal here, although normally good and strong, doesn't always work out if you don't have the polar vortex cooperating. If you have this polar vortex over the region where you need the blocking that prevents the blocking, which is right here, you need it over Greenland, not up here. Okay? You need it over Greenland, or else this trough is just not going to dig far enough, and you're still going to be on the warmer side of things. You can see that here. Now, it's not going to be crazy warm because the PV is close enough that it keeps it slightly above instead of well above. But in this setup here, you need this PV to be weaker and further south. And that allows some blocking to take shape over Greenland. Will that happen? We don't know yet. I'm kind of leaning against that, just aside from these transient shots that come in like the middle of the month here. So we'll see how this goes here. You do have opportunities for snow yet. It's not completely dead. But the overall theme here is once we get past into the last 10 days of February, I think winter's pretty much over at that point, and your up and downs stop. So the up and downs of periods of 2 to 3 days of cold versus followed by 2 to 3 days of warm will be over, and we just stay warm. Now, when we get into March, that could change. We don't know that yet. I don't want to go too far. Again, we abandoned seasonal outlooks for a reason, because they're just too difficult, and just one little thing can mess it up, like we talked about in the beginning of this video, with a quasi-biennial oscillation that is virtually unpredictable, that can take the best outlooks and most researched outlooks and just destroy them. And I can tell you, I spent a lot of time on the winter outlook this year, myself and my team. I don't want to take credit for that. We spent a lot of time on this outlook this year. Everything looked great, and then if one thing just doesn't work out the way you expected it to, per the analogs and other things, it can mess up the entire outlook. So we're just admitting that the outlook so far has not worked out. You can still get opportunities for snow on a transient situation where you have you're timing this cold perfectly with a storm. So we'll see how it goes. Not completely dead with snow yet. We'll see how that goes in the coming weeks. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Marchers. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, February 5th, 2017. I hope you join us again next week for the 12th of February edition of Weather Weeklies. Take care.